Hey, Greg, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, I'll turn on my Zoom now. Well,
Zoom.
Zoom, Zoom.
It used to be a show. Oh, damn. Is that really old? Do you remember a show named Zoom? This is good. This
Can hear you from back there.
okay.
Hey, Todd, can you hear? Todd?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Go ahead. Oh, now I can hear you. Just myself. So you want to stay muted?
Is there?
Hi, Todd DK. So
I'm hearing some feedback now.
try normal. Okay, no feedback.
Hello. Ta-da.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
There we go. Finally figured out how to unmute it. Pretty good. How are you?
All things considered, doing all right.
Yeah, looking a little scruffy there, dude.
Yeah, gotta do something for entertainment during these days, right?
Yeah, really. Oh, how's everybody else?
Hello.
Hi, Justin.
Hello, how are you, Rachel?
Good.
Hello.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
So if you see me looking annoyed, my dog is under the table and won't move. I've stepped on her twice and she still just looks at me like, hello, I'm here. So Kristen, do you have the name of the person who wants to speak?
Name's Morgan Prine,
How do you spell the last name?
Prine.
Okay. Thank you.
I haven't heard anything. Have you guys been talking? No? Yes?
It looks like you're having a party wherever they're at who is talking and then.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure my audio was not screwed up. Okay.
The rest of us are trying to stare professionally at our screens, right?
Rachel's been making jokes.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Nice clean ones.
Wait, are you in Coolidge too, Kristen?
Yeah, listening.
Okay, got it.
And I'll get the other closed session going once this one's wrapped.
Right. And that link is in our calendar, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sangita, how was Linnea's birthday?
Good. We had a fairly steady stream of people that came in, saw the sign gypsies, took a socially distant picture, and grabbed a cookie from the no contact treat table. So it was good.
That is so cute.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much all we could do.
Who made the cookies?
Old Town Bakery, of course.
Okay. Okay.
Not your other daughter?
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, the baking business. Yeah. No, she did make treats for somebody at Hope UCC. The pastor there got some and asked for some for one of her parishioners. And then another pastor asked for 5 dozen for his parishioners. So she's supplying the pastors.
So that she's the hookup.
Apparently.
Well, Mr. Ferguson, and you can attest to those the cupcake you got delivered yesterday was also made by Karenna Zemek because we ordered from her baking biz. So you can let us know if you enjoyed that. So
It was absolutely delicious. And I have my 3 little girls at home, and it was a battle after dinner just because they saw that thing come in the door. It sat on the counter, and Daddy, what's with the cupcake? What's gonna happen with the cupcake?
you're like, it's mine, my birthday.
I barely got a bite, but the one I did, I was able to salvage.
Oh,
Was
that's
delicious. It was really good.
Good. That was the first time with that recipe. So now I'll tell her that it's, school district approved.
All of you mothers have nice Mother's Days.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you?
Yes, Rowan crocheted me a narwhal.
Oh.
It's amazing. I'm actually going to go get it because
Please do.
it is outstandingly done. She's not my child because I'm not anywhere near this talented. Check this out.
We gotta find you on the screen.
Back up
Where-
just
oh,
a
there
little
you-
bit. Oh, cute.
That is cute.
She is a talented little crocheter.
We need to have these 7th graders have a booth at the farmers market. Augie has a booth. Moline School District could have a booth.
Yeah, that's all I need to do is tell Rowan she can make money.
I'm showing 6 o'clock.
Is everybody here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. My bad. Okay. I don't have a printed copy of the agenda because my printer decided to jam and I can't unjam it. So, we can move the agenda down just, awesome, thank you. So we'll call this Committee of the Whole meeting together at 6 o'clock on Monday, May 11th, on our Zoom. Can I have a roll call, please?
Audrey Adamson,
Here.
Justin Anderson,
Present.
Sangeeta Rayapati, I'll come back to Sangeeta, Amira Sadiq, Kate Schaefer,
Here.
Maria S. Trigueros,
Here.
Andrew Wayert,
Here.
Aaron
I'm
Waldron Smith,
Oh, sorry.
Here.
Sangeetha Rayapati,
I am now unmuted. I'm here.
Okay. And we have one public comment from Morgan Prine. Do we have Morgan with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you like me to go ahead and begin with my public comment?
That would be awesome. Thank you, Morgan.
Sure. And so I am reading off a script. I will keep it under 5 minutes because I want to be cognizant of your time. But thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Morgan Prine, and I have a 4-year-old daughter who attends Roosevelt Elementary and is in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing preschool program. We started the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program in November of 2018, directly after finding out about our daughter's hearing loss. We felt very lost and confused as to what her future looks like. How do we support her in ways that she needs? And how do we help her to be as successful as possible? This program would front load her with speech and provide her access to visual language that would help fill in any gaps that she has. To say that this program has been life-changing is an understatement. My daughter went from being developmentally delayed to meeting or exceeding all of her IEP goals within a year. And if that doesn't speak wonders about this program, I don't know what does. As a parent, to see your child thrive in an environment that is best for them is truly an amazing sight. As we have all experienced during this pandemic crisis, e-learning is incredibly difficult. I want to add that our staff and our district's response to this has been second to none, and you all should be very proud of yourselves. It has proved a million times over how important our teachers and our schools are. Education is so important, and this crisis is doing our kids such a disservice. Imagine attempting to do speech therapy via a Zoom conference call while you are trying to process this sound through your hearing aids. It's incredibly difficult and adds to further hearing fatigue and exhaustion for our children. This time has been especially difficult on families trying to navigate through what a new normal looks like. I myself am struggling with balancing working from home, attempting to keep my family safe, and being a supplemental teacher in the mix. It's hard as a parent to try to keep normalcy for our children and to ensure that they are happy and not affected by all of this, all while we still operate in the unknown. This all leads me to why I am here tonight. I'm asking for your attention, but most specifically for your action. On Saturday, May 9th, I received a letter from the Black Hawk Area Special Education District stating that due to an increase in Moline special needs population, the district is in dire need of classroom space in their buildings. As a result, the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program will be removed from the Moline School District effective fall 2020, and it will be housed in the Sherrard School District, specifically in Winola Elementary, which is in Viola, Illinois. Eventually, the entire Deaf and Hard of Hearing program will be transitioned out of Moline into Sherrard. My argument today is not to talk about the disparities between the district and the lack of access and opportunities for our deaf and hard of hearing children, but I want to know why our deaf children do not have the same rights to the same educational space as the other special needs programs. I want to understand who makes the determination that these children in the midst of a pandemic can be so disposable to this district that it is okay to expedite this move and remove this program to make space for other special needs programs. Dr. Savage, if you are on, I appreciate your response and research. You found that the board agreed to this move back in 2017 on a 5-year plan. When my daughter started this program back in November 2018, we were never made aware of this move, nor was it ever written in my daughter's EEP. Myself and the Deaf and Hard of Hearing staff have been blindsided by this decision. I have had no time to plan or to establish an IEP meeting to determine what other options I have available for my child. To make a decision like this in the midst of a pandemic is completely disruptive to our children and our families. What I am calling for tonight is for my district and for my school board to step in and make this right. I am curious how many educators on this call tonight would speak with confidence on their students' success after being uprooted from an environment that they know and trust being placed into a brand new one, especially after the experience with COVID-19. Whether this program belongs to Bossett or not, you have an obligation to be my partner in this and to help fight for what is right. And that includes a transparent plan for a move and a gradual plan that does not exclude the youngest members of this program. Please delay this move, give our children a fighting chance next school year, and allow us time to properly plan. We need time to find appropriate services to work, and we need to work together and ensure that every child in this district has access to the resources that they need. The Moline motto of raising the bar and closing the achievement gap for all students cannot be made possible if you don't listen to and fight for those who especially need you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will, I will reach out to you in the next week or so with a letter, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I will provide this transcript too. I went fast, but I wanted to be cognizant of your time.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we need to approve the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting from April 14th of 2020. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as they are?
So moved. Andy.
I'll second Sangeetha.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I'll move on to Dr. DeBain and the total school cluster grouping update.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. We are fortunate to be joined by Marcia Gentry, who's the lead through Purdue for the cluster group study that our district, our elementary schools have been a part of. On Tuesday, we were fortunate to end up having Dr. Gentry join cabinet, and she provided us with a report of her findings, or her team's findings, from Moline's efforts in cluster grouping. We have Dr. Gentry on with us, and she's going to go over a few of the things that they ended up finding in the study of cluster grouping as it relates to Moline, and then we'll talk about some next steps that we're currently looking at. So Dr. Gentry, thank you very much for being with us today, and if you don't mind sharing what your research found out.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here. So Moline was part of a federally funded study that was 5 years in duration, 4 years of treatment, and 5 of your schools were treatment the whole time. And then the other 5 were what we call delayed treatment. And that means that they gave us baseline and control data in the first 3 waves, and then they were treatment the last 3. And we're still waiting with COVID and embargo data and all this stuff. We're still waiting to put the whole project together. So there were about 100 schools total. You contributed 10 of those. So what I'm talking about tonight is only related to Moline because I don't have all, I'm waiting on, I think, 2 more schools so we can finish the study completely. So this will be, descriptive, and there's some good news. And then there's some questionable news, and there's some things that maybe, we can take away from it to talk about how you might improve some things. So we have lots and lots of data, and I gave them, what did I give you guys, like a 200-page report, So I'm going to just kind of cut to the chase with it. There were attitudes toward gifted and talented programs, and we measured those pre and post. And what we found was, for the teachers who responded, increased support and attention and funding. So the teachers increased in their attitudes about supporting gifted programs. There was a decrease in perceptions of elitism, really from 40 to 23% agreement with gifted programs are elitist. So it wasn't a huge problem to begin with, but 40% of the teachers thought it was, and now it's 23%. And also others feeling devalued or labeling, that decreased from like 50 to 32%. And there was a statement about special attention resulting in gifted students becoming egotistical, and that decreased from 42% to 11% agreement on that. So those are some pretty good attitudinal findings. There were also teachers improved attitudes toward achievement grouping, with support for clustering to meet the needs of high achievers going from 60 to 89%. And that identification of high achieving and above average students improved expectations for these students. That went from 58 to 73%. And that clustering helps meet the needs of students from all achievement levels. That statement went from a 30% to 66% agreement. And we also, cluster grouping doesn't deal with it, but I know you guys do some acceleration, and there were some improvements as well as how teachers viewed acceleration. With regard to self-reported classroom practices, there was an increase for use of these strategies for low, middle, and high achievers, questioning and thinking, using it more than once daily, providing challenges and choices. Those increased from a few times a week to using them daily. And curriculum modifications went from near daily to more than daily. So the teachers are using the strategies that they went through training with. We have a very long report on fidelity of implementation. It's a report for each school with some recommendations, and I'm not going to go through that right now. When we went through and looked at achievement and identification findings, you gave us three achievement points. We elected to use the baseline before the program began, and then every spring thereafter for these analyses. We ran them both ways, and this is just, it's the same finding, and this is simpler. We looked at how students who are from underrepresented racial groups, so we combined Black, Native, and Hispanic students as underrepresented racial groups, and we compared those students with well-represented groups from white and Asian backgrounds. And then in a second set of analyses, we compared the students who are from families that are eligible for federal meal subsidy with the students who are not. And what we found some really nice things. In general, as shown in the cohort treatment delay, all students grew in achievement. One of the things that happens is sometimes students who are achieving at low levels or lower income kids who achieve at high levels fall out of achievement over time. And you had all students in all levels growing and in all groups. So that's a super good finding. Starting with the analyses on race, represented and underrepresented, treatment schools that were in treatment for the whole duration showed a very small gap between represented and underrepresented. They were almost the same across math and reading for all the cohorts. And we analyzed the data by cohort, by graduation cohort. So we looked at kids who will graduate in 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27, all the way to 30. So we have waves of data going through, which allows us to compare repeated measures of the same students as they travel through the program. And so really an interesting finding was that there wasn't a big gap in racial scores, and that's not typical of many places. And the schools, and I don't know the reason for this, but the schools who entered the treatment later had a larger gap, and that gap was consistent. And in the 2 years they were in there were a couple places where it began to close, but in general, it just was a gap. So hang on to that, because that becomes important a little bit later. With regard to income, the families who are eligible for federal meal subsidies and not, again, the treatment schools show a much smaller gap between those two groups than do the delayed treatment schools across all cohorts from 2025 to 2028 in math and reading. So it's very clear. So then we looked at those identification categories, because in this model, we had the teachers use data and their observations to identify each spring the achievement levels of every single child, from low, average, above average, and high. so that they could do the clustering placement. And I want to reiterate, I know I visited with your board when we first started this, that label is not necessarily for instruction, but it's used to reduce the range of achievement levels that the teachers have to deal with. And so we did an analysis where we looked at the initial identification category, whether it was in 2015 for the treatment schools or 2017 for the delayed treatment schools. And we said, if a student was identified as low or low average over time, how did their achievement progress? And this is super interesting as well. We actually found that all students grew, no matter where they were identified, low or high, that oftentimes the students in the average or low average groups grew even more than the students who were in average and high achieving. There may be some ceiling effects going on with your testing, but all the kids grew across the board. So that's super good news, because typically what would happen is low achieving students don't gain as much as their higher achieving counterparts. And in your district, they are doing, you know, if the high achievers are gaining 40 points, the low achievers are gaining 42 points, you know. So those graphs are all detailed and they're contained in the report, but that's the finding on identification. So low achieving students are not being left behind. And then we looked at race with regard to identification. And if we think back to that finding that there was very little difference in racial categories represented or underrepresented in achievement, then we might expect that we would have improving representation by race in as high achieving. But that didn't happen. In fact, the opposite happened. And this is the area of concern. Despite consistent achievement gains and relatively small gaps between represented and underrepresented students, Black, Latino, and Native youth are overrepresented by about double at the low achieving area, and they're underrepresented by up to 6 times, and it's worsening in most cases at the high achieving areas. So the opposite is supposed to happen in this model, and that didn't happen. And I was thinking about it today after I sent the report in, and I think the next step, I'm going to take a look at all of your underrepresented kids in these data and where they're scoring. And I'm going to compare that to your represented kids and see if there are kids who are actually being left out systematically. I don't think teachers are sitting around saying, how can we have bias, you know, but I think bias might exist or something's going on. This trend that I'm talking about persists as throughout the earlier data sets, the cohorts that run through 2026. However, in data sets 26 through 2030, so we got 27, 28, 29, and 30, those graduation years for the delayed treatment group, and in 28 and 2030 for the treatment group, equity improved for underrepresented races over time. So it isn't like the whole thing is bad. It's at the beginning, typically mostly for the people who did this for 4 years, and the delayed treatment, even though they had a wider gap, they're actually equitably identifying the racial groups. So that's a strange finding, but it's encouraging to know that those other 5 schools, when they got on board, the trend that we expected to see, we actually see after about a year of involvement. It takes a little bit of time. We did those same analyses about identification for income groups. So, and basically, again, despite a narrower achievement gap, for identification, underrepresented and overrepresentation persists for income groups. So that just kind of is. So it's better for the delayed treatment for race, but in cohort 2024, there's a 3-fold overrepresentation at the low achieving category and a 3-fold underrepresentation at the high achieving. And that's kind of typical of what's going on. There are slight improvements for the delayed treatment and treatment schools for income in some cohorts, including 2028, 2029, and 2030 in some areas. But in general, large inequity in identification categories exist for students who qualify for the meals subsidy when compared with those who don't qualify. So that's what we found when we evaluated. So we've got some conclusions. You know, teachers who responded, their attitudes toward programming and generally improved, and their frequency of differentiation strategies and support for the program improved. Achievement for all students improved over time, often with students from lower achievement categories growing as well or better than other students. This may mean that teachers are effectively differentiating instruction for all levels. That's one of the outcomes of cluster grouping, less of a stretch in achievement levels to deal with, and maybe better targeting of instruction for all kids. And lower achieving students are not being left behind, they are keeping pace. Treatment schools had smaller gaps in achievement between represented and underrepresented racial groups and between farm eligible and non-farm eligible groups, yet worse identification pattern than did the delayed treatment schools. Delayed treatment schools for later cohorts had reasonable equity and trends at higher achievement levels for underrepresented racial groups. However, this wasn't true for the original treatment schools in general. So some recommendations. Matt, you want me to go ahead with that? And then we can just chat if you want.
Great.
I think individual schools need to review and respond to their report cards that the evaluation team prepared that are part of the report I sent. I would recommend culturally responsive classroom training to better develop cultural competencies for teachers as an area. I have some colleagues in Virginia who were studying similar issues, and they were saying that one of the things they were able to do about underrepresentation was they could prime the pump. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they said they actually told the teachers, like, share these data. We're asking you to find talent in these groups and it's not happening. We need you to step up and do that. And when they put it that way, the teachers did it. The other thing that you could consider doing after we look at the just basic achievement scores, you might want to look at local group norms for your free and reduced lunch kids, because a student from a lower income family scoring at like a 70th percentile is equivalent to a non-low income child's 90th percentile score. So it may mean that you need to implement some talent development programs for your high potential but not as high achieving students from underrepresented groups. I think that would be a really good improvement. Create support for developing talent among underrepresented racial and income groups. Positive interventions. Examine how delayed treatment schools have identified more students. They're right there and they've done it. And the other set of schools, for whatever reason, didn't. So I think having some conversations about what went on in those delayed treatment schools, despite a bigger gap, being able to more equitably identify why did that happen? That's a really important question. And develop supports for high achieving students to ensure academic progress aligned with their abilities. That's pretty much what I have. Happy to have a discussion or take questions or whatever you need me to do.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead and unmute yourself, I guess.
This is Erin. I have a question.
Okay.
Is it possible that for the delayed groups that rollout was an issue? And maybe that's why there are some of the issues that there is with the delayed groups.
Well, the delayed groups they had a wider gap to begin with.
Okay.
And I don't know that. I mean, we did similar things both rounds, and they actually had better identification findings than the original treatment group. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And those are some of the questions we need to, go through and process and try to figure out. These schools did this well and these schools did this well, and together we can put it together and, continue to help everybody make progress. It's a good question.
Aaron, I would bounce into that and say that there were some delayed treatment schools who wanted to start early without the training. And when we found out about that, we said, please wait until we can get the proper training before implementation.
Okay, Matt, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
So Kate, I would add, we have projected right now some next steps. Again, to thank Dr. Gentry, to say that we have a lot of data to look over is an understatement, but we appreciate that. And we've talked as a cabinet about some next steps. So we're going through a lot of different data pieces. And in fact, even today, Dr. Gentry was able to update some data pieces for us. So we're going through that. Later down the road, we'll be able to have that comparative data so we can compare ourselves, not just how we're doing in Moline, but how others are doing and be able to learn that way. So learn inside as well as learning outside. If the board recalls, there was a few professional development sessions that they had approved. One was this spring. There was supposed to be some gifted training that was going to be able to target how we can end up helping with some talent development and differentiation and the such. Obviously, due to the shelter, that got canceled for now, but that's certainly, we want to end up coming back to that training with these findings so we can be very purposeful and targeted in what we're doing. The board has also approved, we had Carlos Johnson who came in October 30th, really well received with our teachers, and he's going to be coming back for our administrators in June, and then we're going to have him again full day in January with our staff to start diving in further into the cultural competence training. So, you know, we look at this as something where this helps us become, again, more purposeful and targeted in some of the supports that we can go from there. Dr. Savage and I had ended up talking about some next steps with this as well, and about zooming in and zooming out. So we have some data and information for our buildings. We're going to be processing that. So that's really zooming in and targeting how our individual buildings can do better, and then zooming out and how we can do better across the organization, and hopefully be able to have this information come into our district goals, our PACE goals. And so we're going to be doing a lot of work with it in the time to come. But thank you, Dr. Gentry.
You're welcome. I appreciate your involvement and, you know, sticking with it for the duration of the study. I'm sure others are going to learn a lot as we begin to write up these findings, and it'll be super interesting to see if your findings are typical or atypical and how you situate in the context of the wider study. So, and if you have questions.
I do have one question, and it's in comparison to the other districts, do we have more schools, about the same amount of schools that are participating, or?
It actually varies. You're somewhere in the middle. We had, I believe we had, I'm gonna say 18 or 19 districts and 100 schools, but we had some that were small and some that were big, and some, like, we have one place that had 2 treatment schools and 18 control schools, you know? So they just stayed as what we call perpetual controls. We gave people the option in year 3 in 2017 to choose to enter treatment or stay as control. And so we actually have 3 kinds of schools: those who did treatment, those who were delayed treatment, and those who were perpetual control. So we have to kind of untangle all that to situate you.
I do have one other question as well. Do we know any of this data broken down by the size of section of building we have, you know, our 4-section or 3-section schools versus the 2-section school, which I know we don't have as many of anymore, but are we able to break it down by that and look at classroom size as well?
Classroom size or school size?
Both. I mean, the school size with however many sections we're trying to differentiate or through in these clusters, as well as the overall size of the classroom. How many students are in each classroom?
That's a good question. We can, as long as we have those variables, like we know which school the kids went to. The problem becomes over time, because we're doing the cohort, is the numbers get small. Because you start with like 2nd grade, then they go to 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade, and we're looking at kids who were there for that duration. We coded kids who moved between treatment schools and between control schools and dealt with them, but we can look at individual buildings. We did do some baseline data, and that's in the front of the report, Matt, and they're really very similar. You know, I'm not, and we've got, I didn't share those with you, but the we have like the data lines for each cohort for each building, and even a line for where the treatment schools come in. So here's their trajectory, and then here's after treatment. So those are already broken down by individual schools. And some schools are higher than others, but they're all, what's really kind of impressive is that they're all gaining. There's just this upward trajectory, which is really nice to see. And so because we could see that from all of the schools, then to take a look at the race, you know, and the income, we had to put them together.
I guess that's why I'm asking, is because we have these big question marks around bias and race and potentially income levels as well. And what do we know about classroom size and those demographic labels, right? Or categories. I'm wondering if there's a level of information that could be gained by looking at the classroom size issue. But if you have a way to do it, that's awesome. If it wasn't part of the study, I understand that as well.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Matt?
There's Maria had a question that she wrote in about a copy of the report, but I believe Dr. Savage that should be emailed, so it should be in your email. Again, thank you, Dr. Gentry. We really appreciate it, and we are glad to be able to work with you.
Good, thank you, appreciate it. Stay safe, everybody.
You too. Stay
All
well.
right. Yep, bye-bye.
All right, thank you, Matt. We'll move on to the Logan update with Dr. DeBain.
Yeah, we also have another guest with us, and that's Mr. Ferguson, our Logan principal. I had emailed the board the Logan School Improvement Plan. Remember that this year, Logan came on as one of the Illinois Empower underperforming schools. So it's a 3-year process, a grant. This is a planning year. And I really want to end up taking this moment to thank Mr. Ferguson and thank his team. There's been a lot of planning that's gone into this. I feel very fortunate to have been able to talk about this with Mr. Ferguson several times and work with his team. And it's been really good to see how serious they took this and really dove in. And so there's no real formal presentation for it. This is a compliance piece to go along with the grant, is that we bring it to the board during the regular board meeting today. You'll be asked to vote on it. But this is just to end up letting you know, and I'll tell you the real meat and potatoes to the school improvement plan is they go through some data pieces, and then there's 3 goals. One goal is for ELA, and this will be through the state test, the IAR. It's a difficult test to end up getting a rating of proficiency on it. The state went from 4 indicators for proficiency to 5, and when they went to 5, only 2 of the indicators are proficient. So it cut off a huge slice of students that would have otherwise been indicated as proficient previously. And so they're looking to increase proficiency and growth on the ELA portion of it, 3.5% annually. So over those 3 years, it would end up being a 10.2% gain. 50% of students will obtain the state growth benchmark on ELA. Another one that they want to address, and again, these goals that they're addressing tie back to where they were deficient. And so one was attendance, and so they have a chronic absenteeism goal that I believe is ambitious. They're going to reduce it by 15% over 3 years, and so that's a 5% reduction in chronic absenteeism annually. And I know if you're someone who's looked at attendance data, this is something that they're really going to be wrapping their arms around. And I believe being ambitious on this is really going to pay off for them. And the third one is that Logan really looked at what they're calling leadership opportunities. And what they're meaning by this is that they want to end up getting more students involved and connected to the school, and thus bringing them more into a community together. And in doing so, they talk about if we can get them involved, we can end up getting them into some different leadership opportunities, because really Logan has several ways that students can get involved. They just want to be able to get them more connected so that they can end up building them up from there. Those are the three main goals. Mr. Ferguson, did I miss anything that you want to add?
No, that sounds great. And I definitely appreciate the support of all the cabinet members, a number of whom, you know, took some time to sit in on some of our meetings. I do want to say thank you to my building-based team, our instructional coach, Kim Lassick, special ed teacher, Teresa Tittle, and 2 classroom teachers, Dana Dwyer and Maggie Dykstra, that committed a lot of time and had to take some days and create sub-plans, which is never, and always the most enjoyable thing to do, to be away from your classroom. But our building did really want to step up and respond to this. It did not sit right with anyone. When these came out and Dr. Savage gave me a phone call and to say, hey, you know, this designation is going to come out. That was back in the fall. And so we have taken this year to really dive into our data as much as we could, from whatever was provided by the state to you know, what we have in our own internal systems, through map testing, through some of our other progress monitoring tools, to really find out you know, where are the areas that we need to target to change this up. And I've been at Logan now, this is my 3rd year at Logan. I think there's many blessings in disguise here, that we're going to find a lot of silver lining, that our building is ripe for change. So again, while no one is comfortable with any kind of underperforming designation that comes from the state and ends up on our state report card, we have an eager group. And what was very fortunate as we sat down to look at data and then, you know, look at rubrics where we had to really look at ourselves and see what our practices were, we found that our district is, you know, kind of steps ahead of us, and that we're already taking care of a lot of these pieces. We set a goal for improvement in ELA growth. We originally had 2 goals for academics, 1 for math, 1 for ELA. We took some guidance from the state. One of the representatives we had a number of meetings with said, you know, we're better to be realistic with 3 goals. So we focused just on the ELA piece for academics. But we know that with the adoption of the new K-5 ELA curriculum, that is going to create consistency between our teachers, consistency between our grade levels, consistency between buildings, so that our teachers will have a great platform to go from. It's a great opportunity for differentiation with ELL students, with students of low income, and just lots of opportunity there. So, you know, as we sat down to game plan, you know, we saw, and when we saw the approval come through of the new Pearson curriculum, we were very excited, because, you know, that's something that we felt was a need to build more consistency for us. For me as an instructional leader in the building, for our instructional coach, it lets us, you know, have just that wonderful piece of consistency for teachers and how to support students through that. Dr. DeBain talked about our ambitious piece, which is reducing that chronic absenteeism. And it's really some red flags went up for us with that. We looked back at data to see that just over 3 years, we've gone from 9% up to 22% of chronic absenteeism in our building, which is just unacceptable. And we know that's a very tough goal to tackle, because what we're trying to do here is to reach, you know, and to work with the parents. When we have 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds that aren't always responsible for getting themselves to school up and out of the door on time, we know a lot of that rests with the caregivers, with the parents and family members that help make that happen. And so, but we are excited about some of the plans we have in place, from, you know, some of our standard incentive programs and follow up with students that have, you know, concerning numbers when it comes to tardy or absent from school. We also started this year in collaboration with the Logan Square Neighborhood Foundation and Network to have a parent coordinator. That's Jane O'Brien, who served in the role last year. She'll be back next year to serve us again, who also reached out to secure parent mentors. And obviously, you know, our school year got cut short, but what was most exciting for me is that I see a need in our building to connect with our diverse families, to connect with our families that are new to the district, that are new to the area, and to see the work from Jane and from our parent mentors. We were able to pull in a diverse group of parent mentors to work with students, and not only work with students in the classroom, but also they had been planning some events outside the building. You know, we drilled down in data to find, you know, from the locations of where students live based on residency, where are some of our target areas in our Logan community that need some support. You know, our zone is unique. We're the one elementary building. We do contribute to both middle schools. And when the buildings were rezoned a number of years ago, the Logan boundary extended west of 74. So right around Allendale, we have an area over there. And we're able to, with the assistance of Ed Tech, get some great mapping tools available to us to see where are high clusters of students, who are those students. And with that kind of information, planning events out in the community on the front lawns of Allendale was something we had hoped to plan for this summer, through the Moline Loft Apartments, through the New Hope Church, through Salvation Army, down near 7th Avenue. We have a high population of students down there that are some of our students in need here. And as you were just hearing Dr. Gentry talk about some of the things from cluster grouping, a lot of that was resonating with me, where we found a lot of those same things. From racial backgrounds to low income, or and those kinds of backgrounds that we need to address. So we're going to find some common threads. As you read through our report, we do a lot of text here to how we want to increase our capacity and progress monitoring. So as we take weekly Ames Web with special ed students, as we take our 3 times a year map tests, as we take our Fonnes and Pinnell assessments for reading, we want to really be using that data more. And all those things together, again, to get families involved with the school, to get families to value that education, do what we can to support the families to get their kids to school is going to be a big push for us. And then our final goal is focused on building leadership and being in that building for 3 years and working with the teachers. We found in ourselves in that process of a look in that we lacked a little bit of that building leadership team approach. And so with this document, we move forward with these 3 goals in mind, that we really want to hang on to these and make sure that we're monitoring them, make sure all of our meetings are led with these 3 goals in mind, that we see the data come to the table, whether it's attendance, ELA, or how we're even doing within our building of getting kids to participate is going to be a big deal for us. And again, as I took this and shared it with our staff, there's some excitement behind it, which is great. And I shouldn't just say some, there's quite a bit. We realize that due to the closure and no IAR testing this year, that we will remain under the underperforming designation for next year on that report card if the state can, puts those out again next year. But we are really determined. Logan has a great history. It has a great prestige in the community. It's a wonderful neighborhood school that's parked right in the middle, and you just see kids up and coming and using the playground. And we want to be that neighborhood school that's going to do best for its students. And it's been a changing population of students over the last, I'd say 8 or 9 years from what I've gathered from former teachers, parents, community members. And so we're going to make sure that our communication, our message is very supportive of those families so that we can do the best to support their kids in school. And, I am happy to answer any questions any board members or anyone else may have on it. And again, thank you to Dr. DeBain, who did a nice job summing up, and sorry for being exhaustive. I'm all kinds of excited about presenting to you guys on it. It's been a big body of work, but you guys now get to share in what Logan staff meetings are like with Mr. Ferguson, just kind of rambling on and being excited about stuff. So thank you.
We're glad you're excited, Tom.
This is Audrey. I just wanted to say thank you, both Matt and Tom and stuff. I know I sent an email earlier today, just sort of making sure I know that the report has a lot of the numbers and the data and has the goals in that, but just addressing a lot of the cultural responsiveness that needs to be with this as well. Just I know the district, we're working on that at a district level and hearing about it from the cluster grouping, but also knowing that that's kind of an underlying theme in how all of these things will be approached with care and stuff within Logan in terms of the communication. So I appreciate you really touching base on that as well as part of the plan because yeah, so thank you. And I look forward to seeing hopefully some really great progress and changes with the resources that are given as part of this. So thanks for clarifying a lot of things and for taking the time with your team to put together this.
Definitely.
I would just echo that, Audrey, and what Dr. DeBain said as well. I think it is a very well written plan, and I could not be more impressed with the way that Mr. Ferguson really took this challenge and tackled it head on. He had the absolute best attitude launching into this work, and I think that his staff was able to feel that sense of importance, and we are here to support him and just really grateful for the work that he has done and excited to see Logan move forward in the future. So great job, Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ferguson and Dr. DeBain. So at this point, we need a motion to adjourn. Sangeeta?
So moved.
Second, Audrey.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, Sangeeta, how long do you want to give? I need to run to the other part of my house for just a moment, so.
Yeah, if we could just have a minute or two, that I think we should keep moving because we have a closed session.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So my clock says 6:46. I'll see you at 6:48. I'm sorry if you're all hearing the banging at my house. The roofers are still here. It's almost 7 at night. They started at 7:30 this morning, so.
So it's you, Sangeeta, that has the roofers in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, but the Turners also had something going on with railroad ties coming out. I mean, there were trucks all over the neighborhood today.
It was very noisy today.
I apologize.
That's all right. We have painters.
Oh, awesome. Craig, are you making a video recording of this as well? Or any sort of recording? Is Craig on?
It should automatically record unless he turned it off.
I was just wondering if we could do the all in favors with the hands up rather than how I've been doing it with doing a roll call anyway.
Yeah, I think we can give that a try.
All right.
Isn't there an option to raise your hand virtually somehow?
Yeah. It's
Can we
somewhere
raise our hand
down.
under the participation area?
I'm looking under chat.
We can also tell you to go faster, go slower, that we like something, that we don't like something.
Yeah, please, you guys, the distractions don't work. You can raise your hand under the participants label. It says raise hand.
Mm-hmm.
Mine does.
Yours does not? You can't see it? Yeah. I think just from,
there it is.
yeah. So you can raise your hand that way. You can raise it for the video recording. That's fine. That'll save us a little bit of time. Okay, so we're all here?
Yep.
All right. I can't make my screen go smaller. Sorry, I gotta move things over. All right, I'm gonna call this meeting, the regular meeting of the Board of Education, Moline-Cole Valley School District to order at 6:49 p.m. Via Zoom. Can I have a roll call, please?
Audrey Adamson,
Here.
Justin Anderson,
Present.
Sangeeta Rayapati,
Here.
Amira Sadiq, Kate Schaefer,
Here.
Maria Estragueros,
Here.
Andrew Wayert,
Here.
Aaron Waldron Smith.
Here.
Okay. Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Give people a minute to do what they're gonna do.
I'm not gonna stand. Oh, is everybody standing?
All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, number 3 on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the open session of the Board of Education meeting of April 27th, 2020. We have a motion.
This is Erin, so moved.
Audrey,
Looks like
second.
Oh, Audrey seconding it. Okay, thank you. All in favor? I'm raising my hand, and I am raising my hand. No, I can't find myself. There I am. All right. We have no more communications or public comment, Kristen? Correct. So we move to the consent agenda, which we need to pull item M. And so I have our wording for us. Oh no, where did it go? Hang on, there we go, I got it. Okay, so the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items A through M and O as presented. I need a,
So moved, Andy.
is there a second?
Second, Audrey.
All right, roll call, please.
Can I ask a question quick?
Yep.
Do we need to, did you say M or N? As in
M as
Nancy
in
that
Michael. We're voting A through M as in Michael and O as
Okay.
presented.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second.
Yeah, I think we had Andy, and then now we have Kate as a second. Okay, roll call, please.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Maria Estragaros,
Aye.
Andrew Wayert,
Aye.
Erin Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. All right, so the next motion is that the Board of Education approve consent agenda item N as presented. I need a motion.
Kate, so moved.
Andy, second.
All right, Stephanie, I think that I heard Andy first for that second. All right, roll call, please.
Maria Estragaros,
Aye.
Andrew Wayert,
Aye.
Erin Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Abstain. Okay, moving to number 4. I can't quite see that, Craig. Can you move that down? Oh, sorry. We were already on 5. Got it. Now I see where we are. Number 6, approval of graduation requirements during a pandemic. Oh, Lord. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the adjustment of the Moline-Cole Valley School District graduation requirements for the class of 2020 to correspond with the recommendations from the Illinois State Board of Education in the following areas. 1, reduce local requirement of additional social studies credit by 1 semester in line with state reductions. 2, reduce local requirement in additional elective credit by 1 semester in line with state reductions. And 3, reduce local requirement of additional overall number of credits needed to graduate by 2 credits in line with state reductions. Is there any motion?
So moved, Erin.
Thank you. Is there a
Second, Kate.
Kate, is there any discussion? Kate has a question?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand. No.
Sangeetha, I have a quick question.
Okay.
Dr. Savage, do you anticipate that if this is something we deal with next year, there will be additional requirement changes?
There could possibly be. These changes under the governor's executive order are specifically referencing this class under the emergency situation that we are in, class of 2020. But it is certainly possible, as we know, many new things are possible, that should the pandemic persist, that these concessions or suspensions of requirements could be extended. But for now, it is only referring to the class of 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussions? Okay, I need a roll call, please, then.
Andrew Wayert,
Aye.
Aaron Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Maria S. Trigueros, is Maria still on?
Yeah, aye.
There you are. And Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. Number 7 is approval of the district's consolidated district plan. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the district's consolidated district plan as required by ISBE. Is there a motion
So moved, Andy.
and a second?
Second, Audrey.
All right, any discussion? No? Okay, a roll call, please.
Maria S. Trigueros,
Aye.
Andrew Wayert,
Aye.
Aaron Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. Number 8, the appointment of coordinator for English learners. There's a recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the appointment of Elizabeth Perkins to the position of coordinator for English learners effective for the 2020-2021 school year. Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second, Audrey.
That was Kate and seconded by Audrey. Any questions or discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Andrew Wayert,
Aye.
Aaron Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Maria S. Trigueros,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. All right, number 9, approval of amended transportation service agreement. There's a recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the contract amendment for the transportation services with Johannes Bus Service Incorporated, Rock Island, Illinois for the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved, Aaron.
Thank you. And a second?
Second, Maria.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Aaron Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Maria S. Trigueros,
Aye.
Andrew Wayert,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. All right. We're moving to reports. Dr. Savage, your floor is all yours.
Yes. Last week was a time to honor our teachers as well as our school nurses. But we really wanted to extend that Teacher Appreciation Week to all of our district employees. As I mentioned to them in a weekly staff update, that everyone has really come together to support one another, and it really has been amazingly wonderful to see. So we thank everyone for their service, especially during this very unique time. Speaking of special staff members, we have 23 retirees this year, and we are so very sad that we will not be able to properly honor them for their dedicated service to Moline-Coal Valley School District. We plan to do a virtual recognition this spring, and then hopefully be able to host an in-person event in early fall. However, I did want to tell you that collectively, they have given 547 years of amazing service to the kids in the community. So that is a fair amount of expertise that we are losing, and we want to wish them well in their well-deserved retirement. Registration is now open for the next school year. The Ed Tech department and curriculum department have done a great job getting everything up and running online for our returning students, any new students, as well as our incoming kindergarten registration. We were unable to host our annual kindergarten roundup, so we are encouraging our new families to enroll online, and then they will be able to complete the registration process at the in-person event that we plan to host at the end of July at Wilson Middle School. I did want to mention the governor's reopening plan that he put out at the end of last week. It is a multi-phase plan for reopening our state, and certainly schools are impacted by this plan as well. We reside in Region 2, as the plan shows, and all of the regions are currently in Phase 2. There is a possibility that we will be able to transition into Phase 3 at the beginning of June and possibly Phase 4 in July. Phase 4 allows for groups of 50 or less. If this happens in the reasonable time frame, we could still potentially host some of our summer camps and other summer events in July. However, we will have to adhere strictly to the plan and all of the guidelines as put forth by the health department. The timeline for these phases also determines which out of our 3 versions for graduation ceremony that we will be able to host. If you recall, our alternative date is Thursday, July 23rd, and we have 3 versions of graduation ceremonies that will allow us to do the most that we can do given what phase we are in. So we will be watching and listening very closely and hoping that we are moving forward to be able to host the live event at our new date at the Tax Layer Center. However, we wanted to keep that date as close as possible for our family, so no matter what, no matter where, they could plan. And so we will keep you posted on that. And lastly, with that being said, while we are looking ahead to the future with registration and thinking about our transition plans for the fall, we're really focused on what's happening right now as well. We are down to our last 3 weeks of remote learning for the year. It will have been an amazing 11 weeks long. So kudos again to everyone that has just stepped up in such an awesome way to try to have as few interruptions as possible for our kids. Our last day of official remote learning will be June 1st, and that will also be the last day for meal distribution at our 3 sites. And again, I want to give a big shout out to Chartwells for supporting us in this process, as well as principals and the other amazing district administrators that have stepped up to do the distribution portion of this plan, delivering almost 1,000 meals a day, which is a very impressive number. So we are looking forward to continuing that these last 3 weeks. And this plan has really allowed us to keep the majority of our staff at home, sheltering in place, following the recommendations from the health department. And so far, you know, hopefully this will bring us to the other side of this pandemic as we soon hope to be. So that is all I have. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Other questions for Dr. Savage right now? No? Okay. A little word of update. This week, Dr. Savage, Audrey, and I were on a Zoom meeting for the Blackhawk division of the IASB. And that was really just a planning meeting. It was good for us though, because we are the hosts for the regional IASB event meeting on October 29th at the Bartlett Performing Arts Center, I believe, right? And so it was good to get a sense of what topics for the breakout sessions or a main plenary session would be of interest to the other people in the other districts. And so I found that helpful. If you ladies wouldn't mind helping me remember what those top topics were. I think everyone is interested in the fiscal issues created by the pandemic and an economic downturn and what that means for all of us. I think they're also concerned with mental health and of our students who have had to deal with a very unique situation in their lives. Someone mentioned re-entry. I don't know if that was you, Audrey, right? But the re-entry back into school and to routines that we don't know how regular those will be either. That those could be big question marks under that topic. Was there another one that rose to the surface? Can you remember?
They had stuff, if you mentioned just overall how people are doing remote learning or some other initiatives. So sharing some best practices of that. Some people had brought up some stuff about school safety and some other things there as well. But the key ones were the mental health and the fiscal stuff was the huge one. So.
Yeah. Okay. So that happened on Thursday. Andy Ware got his letter in time regarding Garfield to the group there that was looking for their special designations. And Kate, you had a question or a comment?
I did, and it's about what you were talking about previously with the ISB. Do you know if they're going to do more than one pull-out session, or are they just planning one?
They were trying to establish our interest level in that. I think we said the more variety, the better. So people liked that we had more than one topic we could check in on, or we could split up. If multiple members of a board went to the meeting, then we could get the most information by splitting up and going to multiple sessions. So
okay.
I'm not sure how it will all pan out.
One other thing I know too, at the end of the meeting, they did mention resolutions due date is this summer. So if our board wants to discuss any resolutions to put out there, we would need to do that prior to, I think they changed the date to middle of June. So a discussion we can have if necessary.
Yeah, if you have any burning topics and you have research on them or what have you, you should just send me an email and we can talk about that in agenda setting and in our last May meeting. We would only have 2 meetings to put anything together. And I do know that at least one member has to be present to present any resolution to the resolutions committee. And I think that's sometime in July or August. They review them all. I can't quite remember, but in any case, we would need to get on that if you have something you're really interested in. I did ask Dr. Savage to give us an update or to do some checking. I was curious about the use of facilities in this while we follow our shelter in place order. I think you have addressed that, I think, in our updates, right? We're following the phases and nothing's going to happen on our properties until we move to phase 3 or 4, correct? 4.
That is correct. And Mr. McDermott can jump in. For me, I think it's important that we adhere to the plans that are set forth by the governor, and that we do our best to keep our employees safe and our students safe, and also allowing our facilities to be properly cleaned and maintained that way so that they are available when we are able to get in there. So for now, we are not approving any additional use. But again, it's a very fluid situation. So we are monitoring that closely. But I have every goal of following that plan closely and strictly. Mr. McDermott, anything that you would add?
I have nothing.
All right. I did remember Justin asking a question about finances. I think the last time around when Dave, Mr. McDermott, you gave a report. And so I did also want to share with the board that at agenda meeting, I talked with Dr. Savage about talking with the cabinet about what are our burdens going to be financially as we continue down this path. We have an idea of what next year might look like, but what will the year after look like? Do we have any places that we can provide any relief or in policy or monetarily with families. So I believe she's going to be looking at that big picture. And as always, you and Dave always give us good updates. So I'm looking forward to that. Anything else burning on people's minds? Nope. Okay. Someone remind me, we need a motion to go into closed session, yes? But not to come back.
Correct.
Correct, thank you. So I need a motion to move to closed session to consider the possible sale, lease, or purchase of property by a public body.
So moved, Audrey.
Okay,
Second then.
Second by Audrey, first moved by Kate. All in favor, please raise your hand or put it up to the screen. All right, looks like we've passed. All right, we'll see you in closed session. You should have the invite on account via your calendar. So wait, we need to leave. We can leave this meeting, correct, Craig? Rather than leaving it open, and you'll open it back up we can rejoin it when we come back, correct?
Yes, it'll be open and muted right now.
Okay. So do you want us to actually physically leave the meeting and sign back in, or no?
You can do either or.
Okay, leave that up to y'all.
I believe you need to leave this so somebody inadvertently doesn't leave a mic on in a second meeting.
Yeah,
We're
that's
going into a closed session. I would say leave the meeting, then return. So you might want to give us a couple minutes to go into closed session.
Okay, well, let's get our ducks in a row, and we'll see you in closed session at 7:15. Thank you.
participant or attendee. Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Probably smart. I've been having a bad day.
All right, finally got to pull it up. Are we all back on? I can't see everybody yet. No. We need Maria. Should we give Maria, you're back? Okay, back, yay! All right, here we go. So we're back in open session. Am I missing something I need to do?
You need a motion to return to open session.
Yes, thank you. I need a motion to return to open session.
So moved, Audrey.
A second? Second from Maria with the piece, with the number 2. Okay, thank you. All in favor, raise our hands in the participant thing or on the screen. Okay. Trying to get back to my thing. So our next item of business is approval for purchase of property. It's a recommended motion that the Board of Education authorize and direct Dave McDermott, Chief Financial Officer, to negotiate a purchase of property located at 3200 9th Street, Moline, Illinois, at terms as Superintendent Rachel Savage, Board President Sangeetha Rayapati, and Mr. McDermott deem acceptable. Be it further resolved that the Moline Coal Valley Board of Education President, Superintendent, and Chief Financial Officer are authorized to execute said purchase. Excuse me.
So moved, Kate.
Second, Justin.
I'm sorry, I was seeing Aaron's chat. Aaron, are you unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, thank you. So we have a first and a second. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Maria S. Trigueros,
Aye.
Andrew Wayert,
No.
Aaron Waldron Smith,
Aye.
Audrey Adamson,
Aye.
Justin Anderson,
This votes on both.
No, this is just on the 9th Street property.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
No.
Aaron has not been roll called on this, correct?
she said yes.
Okay. Do you need to do anything different, Aaron?
I would say no then. I apologize. I misunderstood.
3200 9th Street is, Mr. McDermott, please. So we have to pause this voting for a second. Mr. McDermott, which school is the 3200 9th Street?
Let's call that the Hamilton. Hamilton, the property adjacent to Hamilton.
Okay. I'm sorry, Stephanie, could you please read what the roll call is so far?
So for yes, I have Kate Schaefer, Maria S. Trigueros, and Audrey Adamson. Sangeetha, I didn't get to you.
Right.
For no, I have Andy, Aaron, and Justin. So right now it's 3 and 3.
Yep.
So Sangeetha Rayapati?
My turn. Yeah. Aye.
So motion carried.
Okay. the approval of purchase of property in number 14. Is the recommended motion is that the Board of Education authorize and direct Dave McDermott, Chief Financial Officer, to negotiate a purchase of property located at 1412 10th Street, Moline, Illinois, at such terms as Superintendent Rachel Savage, Board President Sangeetha Rayapati, and Mr. McDermott deem acceptable. Be it further resolved that the Moline Cole Valley Board of Education President, Superintendent, and Chief Financial Officer are authorized to execute said purchase. Motion,
So moved, Aaron.
need a second?
Second, Audrey.
Kate is raising her hand, a second. And roll call, please.
Justin Anderson,
Yes.
Kate Schaefer.
Aye.
Maria Estragaros,
Aye.
Andrew Wayert,
No.
Aaron Waldron Smith,
Yes.
Audrey Adamson,
Yes.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Yes. Okay, we are finished with our agenda. I need a motion to adjourn.
Aaron, so moved.
Andy second.
And all in favor, raise your hand digitally or and verbally. Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you all in a few weeks for another meeting and goal setting. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Bye.